Yeah, so last time you said that you wanted to tell us some interesting things in the period 2001 to 2003. So, what was it about?
Okay. Okay. There were, this was a period where the problem that we had in wireless and local loop that the government had kind of disappeared. I was given a Padma Shri. I was also nominated on Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited board, as well as Videsh Sanchar Nigam Limited, which by the way became Tata, took over, and Tata Communications. So it's a very interesting period, particularly the Tata Communication. Ratan Tata was the chairman, and very senior people on the board. And the issue was, it was a profitable company, the Tata Communication BSNL, but because we are charging huge amount for long distance overseas calls, and we knew that that is going to start disappearing and it's going to fall. So we're looking at what do you do to keep the company healthy, in good state, and how do you go about trying to strengthen the company? Because if it was not, if it was left in government's hand, it would have become a bankrupt company. In private hand also, it would have struggled. And this was a question that was discussed, that what you do. Now, the interesting thing that was going on in the world, and what I'm telling you this incident because it has a immense value in terms of where technology, business can combine to the nation's advantage. So there was the long distance lines between countries and between continents now were using underwater fiber optic communication. So very, very high bit rate you could carry in one cable. You can have 24, 48 individual fiber, and each could carry huge bandwidth. Now, all over the West, I mean, this was driven by the West for the program to actually keep laying these fibers. And of course, Tata Communications were using this. The costs were high, but West was investing. And soon, by around 2002 or so, we saw almost 2002, 2000, early 2003, 2003, we saw basically there was a web of fiber now connecting almost every country underwater, which has a seawater phase. And inside also there's a lot of fiber being put. There was one big company which almost owned, I don't remember the name of the company, almost owned 40 to 45% of the fiber. And it had invested huge amount. From what I remember, the investment was around $2.5 billion. The company had come up very rapidly and it owned the fiber. And the fiber was not being used. And as the fiber started getting used, suddenly we started hearing reports that company was not doing very well. Its revenue was not that high. Its investment was very high. It owned 40-45%. Its revenue, to a great surprise, around 2003 was only around $130 million. There was huge bandwidth available, but not all bandwidth was getting used. We know that it was going to increase, but it may increase slowly and it may take a very long time. The expenditure that the company was incurring every year in just managing the whole operations, and it had office in almost every country in the world, was of the order of $150 million. So it was losing net about $30-40 million without taking into account the investment and the interest or the depreciation for that. So 1 year it didn't do well, second year it didn't do well, third year it was not doing well, and gradually the company was running out of cash. And no investors were ready to put in more money, though they had put immense amount of money in the past, because at that time there was a belief that this is just going to go up, which fiber bandwidth did go up, but the business didn't grow that rapidly. So we were one of the major users of that, particularly for calls to India and calls from India. We also, our IT services industry was going very strong here, and the IT services required high bitrate fiber optic connection between West and India. So India was a big user, and that time BSNL or Tata Communications was actually carrying the traffic. But we knew the parent company, the company which was providing us the service, was losing. Finally, a state came, that company was going to get into bankruptcy and wanted to do a sell, almost a distress sell. We got to know about it. We had a special session on this, and I remember I had mentioned this to Ratan Tata, that they will not find buyers in US or Europe West because it is losing money, and there is no prospect in at least 5 to 7 years for even to break even. It has invested huge amount, but its cash loss year after year is very high. And it is a very, very valuable infrastructure which has 25 years, 30 years life. So I remember casually talking to him that why don't we buy it? Actually, the hint of it had come to me from a friend of mine, a classmate of mine who was in the United States, who knew about this whole business. He knew what was going on and what is likely to happen, and he's a billionaire himself. My classmate from IIT Kanpur, he had become a billionaire, and he had a very strong connection to the Senate and the Senate politicians. He used to fund a lot of them. So in one of my conversations when I visited him, he was talking to me that nobody is going to buy this because it is a loss-making proposition. So I said, well, then it has to be sold outside. He also told me that Chinese are very keen to take it up. They don't mind taking it up and staying with it because long term it is a very valuable and very strategic asset also. But he told me that his friends in the Senate, in US Senate, tells him that they are not at all keen to sell it to China. And they will not allow that sale. It is at that time I told Ratan Tata that why can't we buy it? He told me first instance reaction was $2.3 billion investments. Why do you think? I don't think we can afford it. But we had a discussion and we felt, and there are several people who are very smart in the Tata Communication Board from Tata side. So I said, it will be sold at peanuts. This investment is written off, not to be taken into account. And we discussed and sort of said, though looks like the only players who will take it up is either Indians or Chinese. And Indians, there are no players of this kind, and Chinese are likely to, but US is not happy with China doing it. So why not we go seriously try? With any discussion, I learned that possibly they can actually do it at close to 100 million, 150 million. That's it. Because finally the company was losing money. The value, that asset has no meaning because if the company, if in near future one did not see it, maybe 10 years down the line, 7 years down the line, the company will break even and make money. And the issue then came that what will happen? Are we going to then lose $50 million year after year? And that's where there was one alumni of ours, IIT Madras, who happened to be the man, almost ready to take over as managing director, N. Srinath, and he and I kind of discussed this and said that, well, we think this cost is because this is a US company. And if we take over and change a few people and manage it better, we think that we can almost make it break even. And then we can play the waiting game. Our own traffic is increasing, we can play a waiting game and we can actually do this. And of course, there were government persons in the board and they didn't like any such thing. They thought that the wealth that VSNL had, it had cash, will be frittered away. But somehow we persevered and bid for it. Tata decided that it will be willing to put in a lot of money. And we won the bid. One of the most interesting aspects is that, and fortunately not in 7-8 years, but in 4 or 5 years the usage picked up like anything. That's the time internet was just picking up. And we became a highly profitable company from that point of view, from that business. And we were now present all over the world. We had something like 70, 75 offices. We were a global company instead of an Indian company. The value kept on going up. And the fact that our voice call business was getting wiped out year after year and it kept on falling, we are able to take the shock. We had a little bit of debt problem in between because we had expanded ourselves so much, but we became a global player for communications. We understood technology well enough and we were able to take over the whole infrastructure, we were able to manage it. Tata Communications diversified, and in about 15 years, the situation was the company was in revenue terms 50 times bigger and a decent profits. Of course, it made a few mistakes. For example, it tried to take over a telecom in South Africa. That was a disaster. It made a few mistakes. But what I'm pointing out, that technology and business together got this done. And I played a major role in this. Again, partly because a lot of our students were abroad, I haven't seen this kind of leveraging going on a lot. And in fact, many of them were in fiber optics area. Of course, the only person unhappy was Mukesh Ambani. He knew me. Not very well, but he knew me. When he meets, he would sort of say, oh, we are just kind of almost related, that kind of thing. That's the way style of his talking. And he was quite upset that why didn't I tell him the opportunity? And I said that, well, I was on that board, I obviously was. And he was quite upset that he did not get it. And he kept on saying that you should point out to us, after all, I can also go the thing. And I didn't have, though I was sitting on Tata board, but I didn't have this versus that company. Fortunately, in about a year's time, a second opportunity came. The second largest fiber optic company, Flag, was in a similar state. Once again, the same thing that was repeated. I quickly sent a message to Mukesh Ambani, and Mukesh Ambani put it. Anywhere Ratan Tata, they would not allow from monopoly point of view one company, and they put it. And we were together owning 75 to 80% of underwater fiber in the world. This was by 2010. If we really had and my own area was optical fiber, so I knew everything. if we really had the right thinking, right, we could have become a number one player and remained a number one player in the world in this. We could have brought in technology. There's so many Indians working in this area. We even tried to set up a company called Tejas Networks. We did set up a company on optical fiber. But one of the point that I will say that Indian government never understands the opportunity of even strengthening Indian business internationally. While it may play favorites one or the other within the country, but becoming a global player, which the Chinese would do very, very well, Indians never look at it. One biggest problem as Tata Communication grew by 54 was that its equity base remains same, which was there in 2001 or 2. Why? Because government owned 26% and it had what is called a golden share. So it has a veto right over any future investment, future business, this, that. If Tata was willing to raise money and was willing to put in money, but the government has to continue to own 26%. So, and the government is not willing to put in money. Bring in money. So what do? You are stuck. You can't raise equity. So if you can't raise equity and your business is growing so much, where do you get cash from? The obvious thing is to borrow. And of course, the good part is since Tata Communications was running all over the world, it could actually borrow in foreign currency where the interest rates are very low. So it did borrow, but its debt to equity ratio became very bad. And it kept on coming into a bottleneck. And the reason I'm pointing out, we must have lobbied so much with the government, Tata himself, all of us, successive governments for last 18, 19, 20 years. There was an interesting aspect that when Tata came in and took over as whatever 50% or something, and 25.6% remained this, and some with public shareholders. There is a clause that the land that Tata Communication or VSL owned, you own huge amount of land all over the country, that was given by the government. That land will not go to Tata. So that land will have to be separated out and the original shareholders of the company alone can get benefit out of it. Fine, that was a clause that was done. But the government, in spite of so many attempts by Tata, never came to resolve that. How do you go about it? What is the mechanism? Because there are taxes to be paid. Who pays the taxes? Tata says, if I'm not going to benefit, why will I pay the taxes? Tata Communication, which they own 76%, if they are not going to benefit, why pay the taxes? A new company, this land has to be, how do you give the benefit to the old shareholders? And government after government, meetings after meeting, I was sitting on many things in Delhi and they couldn't resolve it. Finally it got resolved. We thought on 13 or 14 we had almost signed it and then again got delayed and all that. Finally 17, 18 only it has been resolved. The reason I'm bringing this incident up is one, of course, the opportunity and the technology. If you did not understand technology and didn't understand the significance of that, you would not have been able to do this. If opportunity in terms of business, there is a huge opportunity, but the government rules, regulations, the push, all this is missing. So that was in one way very positive thing and very negative thing that we couldn't go anywhere. And of course, gradually, almost 8-10 years later, this Google started laying fiber and various other companies Amazon started laying fiber, and today we no longer are the dominant player. Of course, our fiber is also old; its carrying capacity has got limited. This telecommunication still does well. Reliance is still doing well, but otherwise it becomes a problem. I also felt that sometimes the academia industry interaction becomes very, very important, because only when two comes together these kind of things happen. Of course, still feel that our government, our structure is not strong enough to understand the opportunity and take it up. So this was one thing that I was mentioning that I had not talked about. There are several such things happening. There was another very interesting thing that BSNL, Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, was one of the early ones, along with Airtel, which had put the mobile telephone network. But BSNL had paid huge amount, almost 7,500 rupees per line. Now remember that we are talking about the 40,000 rupees and 10,000, 7,000 for putting infrastructure, base station and everything. And I was on the board of BSNL, and it was purchased with one company, and BSNL wanted to expand it. And they obviously sort of said that, well, to be compatible to this network, we'll go and buy from the same company. So they were going to buy from at a single tender basis. In which case, I knew the price may go down a bit from 7,500 rupees per line to maybe 6,000, 6,500. But being one company only can bid will give all the reasons why it has to be so expensive. Whereas I knew that Airtel by that time was buying at close to 4,000 rupees per line. And the BSNL would refuse to make it an open tender. All the technical argument, we have to purchase only from there. I was on the board of BSNL. The others were some industrialists, and of course, rest was all Department of Telecommunication. So I started saying it's not fair. But they said, well, there is no way we can make the new lines if we get it from some other company. Marry this with this. So I said, that's not true. This is a standard. The GSM standard, while very standard, means that it operates at certain level. Certain level you can connect. And they kept on first simply saying no, but I insisted. Unfortunately, some few independent members on the board felt that I knew things and I'm saying something right, and they would like me to speak up. And then one day I had to give on a board half an hour tutorial. At this point, if you make this open and let everybody bid, your cost will come down. So a lot of pulls and pushes, and really people trying to run me down. These are the times you start becoming enemies. I mean, the various people don't like you anymore. All these things were not right. But finally, I somehow managed to get my way through, thanks to independent board members. From the price point where they were expecting about their own way, expectation was 6,000 rupees per line, and we are going to purchase higher volume than the Airtel had bought, and we got the price at 3,400 rupees per line. I remember we were buying tens of millions of things. What I'm pointing out that while all the government processes, etc., are so well designed that kind of prevent any kind of corruption and this and that, but the rules, etc., are so rigid, it doesn't operate with business in mind. Because if it had done that, it would not even go anywhere. Now, at least that gave the opportunity for BSNL to make the best. It lost later because I got out of the board. I was kicked out of the board. the BSNL itself lost. But I'm pointing out that technology industry got more committed that technology industry has to work. And that's the time my dream very strongly became. Though in 98 itself, I had realized that in industry academia collaboration is going to play a important role, and I started making one or two presentations in alumni circles. But by 2004 or 5, the resolve became very strong that I have to do that.
Can you just explain this a little better? The sum of all your experiences till about 2005, in 4 or 5 sentences, what were the essential learnings which made you say that you want to devote the rest of your career fundamentally for academia industry collaboration?
I'll do that. I'm just wondering whether I did talk about my State Bank of experience and mobile payments.
Yes.
Yes.
All that you did.
And including the OTP.
Yes,
all those things.
all that is done.
Okay, so I think I've kind of covered, so I should now focus on industry academia. From fairly early on, and I'm talking 1980s, I realized that industry and academia in India do not work together. Academia is a source of knowledge. Industry knows how to convert this knowledge into wealth. And I saw that there was this huge Saraswati Lakshmi divide. I was clear that if you don't bring them together, the prosperity engine will not get going. And somewhere we had, I don't know where in our history had kind of put this Saraswati and Lakshmi not getting along well together, and it only reinforced all the constraints that we have created. I clearly saw that this was very different in the United States. That is the only country about which I had experience with. And here we had all the reasons. Of course, when you didn't have that, and the industry was only dependent totally, entirely on international companies. And academia never got opportunity to convert its knowledge into products which can be sold, and therefore that knowledge also remained incomplete. That knowledge remained incomplete, industry remained weak. You served a small section of people. And India was a very large market. The entrepreneurship was strong. And I saw it even in my WS Industries, one example that business knew, business was smart. But not coming together was a big difference. For a long time we thought that we will do it in our own way. And in the period, whatever we did, whether in telecom, in networking, and I'll say later on in banking, we saw that it was working. But in my mind, the biggest issue was, can we do it at scale? And that required beyond Jhunjhunwala, beyond Tenet Group, to do this. And where else I could do was but to try at IIT Madras. I was at IIT Madras. Can I get a large section of IIT Madras to do this industry academia interaction? Can I get them to create a devotion? Actually, that was the beginning of the research park. Let me tell you that by and large now in IIT, there was a belief that yes, this direction is okay and Jhunjhunwala is right leader to lead this. There's always a feeling, a large number of people, that he will do it in the telecom area. But that's what area he is. The whole thing he will do it for himself. This was very disturbing because I always felt that academia always have to think about country. And in my mind, I always was thinking about society and country. But unfortunately, even at a place like IIT, people did not think that you are obliged to think for country. You are obliged to think at best for your own research group. Even though there was some attempt now to do this interdepartmental research and things like that, but by and large, people didn't realize what it means to work for the country. Even if you became a good scientist, you did that and you kept on pushing your own area and to do well. They were thought in terms of the country. Of course, our group, Kenneth Group, Bhaskar Ramurthy, Timothy Gonzalez, and I, three of us were very clear that we are doing with the country. And this large number of youngsters that we are producing in the process, we also knew that we were going to do with the country. We did work in wireless and local loop, not because we were in telecom. In fact, I was not strictly speaking in telecom. I knew nothing about wireless when I took upon that we will do work on wireless. So that apprehension remained till it actually happened. And basically the stage was set for the research park and the incubation cell.
So let's talk about the incubation cell. What is incubation cell? What is it?
Let me start with telling you about research park and the story about research park. And then I will talk about incubation cell. I'm simply saying that because historically also that happened to some extent, well, happened simultaneously. The concept of research park was very simple. And this came from our experience in creating very difficult, impossible technologies and products. We realized there were three sets of people who played a very important role in getting anything done. Impossible things done. The first was this person, academia, faculty, good faculty. And we had plenty of good faculty across departments. That was lucky. That faculty is a source of knowledge. And the good part is the knowledge is wide. In fact, the people who confine themselves to one area actually do not play a larger role. But generally, the faculties may start, their PhD may be in one area, but they will broaden and they will become knowledgeable in fairly large, and not just even in your department, but across departments. And that process, a good scientist has enough knowledge, width of knowledge, and that gives them the experience of, oh, this kind of thing had happened here, this has happened here. So they have all these stories and they have ability to pick up something from one place, some knowledge from totally created for totally different reasons and use it somewhere else. This is the strength of faculty, which is a very important component in innovation. The second important component in innovation is the industry person. Experienced industry person. What does this experienced industry person have? The experienced industry person, first of all, knows what product will sell in the market. Otherwise, you can make a product which will not sell in the market, it is of no use. The industry person knows that when you sell the product in the market, how do you make money? So knows that there has to be margins. Industry person knows how to manufacture a product at scale. Knows how to make a product work 24/7. Almost everything academia takes place, does and develops, it works. And many times you have to keep on hitting the table for it to work. It works as a prototype. From prototype to a commercial product, there is a large gap. An industry person knows how to bridge that. Academic person does not. A bright industry person knows how to make it work 24/7, how to make it affordable, how to make it likable by the market, how to make margins out of it and creating wealth out of it. All these things they know. An academic person knows as a reputation. And together they will take up a very difficult product, services, sometimes. But there is one very, very important element. And this we got to know from our experience. This young person generally has to be as raw as possible, fresh out of college. This young person, if inspired, and it's important, if inspired, is capable of working 16 hours a day. This is something that I learned. They're even inspired. Even our IIT students, if inspired, they can work on such hours a day. They will do it for a cultural festival. They will not do it for academic reasons. Basically, they have a huge ability to work very hard. If inspired, they will work. The second important characteristic of these people is that they do not know that it cannot be done. This is an important element. They do not know that this product is not makeable in the price range that you are looking for. This thing. Now, why I am saying that? Almost everything you try to do, you go to experienced person, they will say, will not happen, cannot be done. In fact, the research park concept itself, when I went to almost everyone, this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen, or you can't make it financially viable. Well, you need to keep on pumping money. We are very clear that this itself has to be a kind of a startup. Most people didn't believe that. The young person does not know that it cannot be done. As the young person learns and become more experienced in the industry, they acquire the same thing that cannot be done. I have always, in fact, every 10-15 days I point an example to an experienced person sitting here and a fresh person sitting here. The fresh person, after discussing, is ready to get going and conquer the world. This person will say, not possible. And this cannot be done, not possible, is a huge roadblock. Because in the mind you have it cannot possible. You won't make that happen. And possibly that person is also right, that it cannot be done exactly in the way it is conventionally done, but that's where the innovation comes in. You figure out alternate ways of doing things and get to the goal. That is this young person. So somehow we thought that we need to bring these three sets of people together. We in IIT already had this faculty who had the width of knowledge, had the ability to pick up things from each other. There was I've been fairly impressed by around 1998, 2000. We are getting good faculty. We didn't have as good a faculty already, but now faculty was improving. We had enough good faculty. I won't say that, but since then it has gone up become much better. But and we had youngsters, both our students, but also the project staff that we used to get from tier 2, tier 3 colleges that I'm talking about. And they are willing to work very hard. It was not too difficult to inspire them. You just have to motivate them. they're also looking for something. Most of them, particularly from tier 2, tier 3 college, actually come from, they are in the transition from lower middle class to middle class to upper middle class. Even coming from rural India to urban India. They are ready to work hard, if motivated. So, what was missing was this industry person. So, an obvious thing which we did with the Midas and other things is bring the industry person in IIT, but it was always discomfort. Industry would not like to stay there for long, maybe yes for a short project, didn't give them the kind of facility that they wanted. It always had difficulty in terms of the rules and regulations of IIT. They won't get 24/7 electricity. Security people will always create problems for them. Whereas industry is used to working in a very different environment. So when we propose that maybe we set up a research park where industry persons will come and set up their R&D and we'll have these young people and academia working together. This concept, I remember 97 or 98, first time I went around the United States as a part of IIT Madras delegation to meet alumni and talking about this is what we'd like to do. There was a huge interest. But nobody knew how to go about doing it, and director was also interested, but beyond that couldn't do anything. So kept on staying there without doing anything. In the meantime, while I was working, I figured out a few other things. I was talking to industry also. The industry said very clearly that they will not come to IIT land. And within IIT, I saw that I was saying already it's a forest, and if we try to clear some land and take it, there is going to be huge opposition. In that, things don't flourish. There was a colleague of ours, or I would say senior colleague of ours, from whom I learned a lot at IIT Madras, Professor V.S. Raju. He was the Dean of Industrial Consultancy. He's the one who had set up this industrial consultancy in the big way, and that building of ICLSR was actually initiated by him. I was quite close to him, so I used to discuss with him, and he liked the idea and said, yes, this should be done. He became director of IIT Delhi. He became director of IIT Delhi and went there and immediately created the research, something equivalent to that within the campus. Now, IIT Delhi has anyway shortage of space because the size is limited. And this, he got the industry person, but the industry person will insulate themselves and stay there. They looked at it as a real estate in the middle of the city. Nothing more than that. They didn't work with industry, academia. Academia did not work with them, though he tried a few times. He got too busy. And there was more and more anger coming because why are they getting this huge space, even though they paid for it, for building the whole thing, and why are they getting better infrastructure? And that was the feeling amongst the industry person. Academic person, industry still felt that it was not the best infrastructure and wish they had their own freedom. I was watching all that and used to talk to Professor Raju saying that this is not the way to do it, I mean, from my understanding. And he sort of said, Ashok, you don't know. You will make it possible. So from in IIT Madras, I sort of say it has to be outside IIT Madras. So while we were talking about, and we initially started sounding a few government secretaries, they talked about, but out near IIT Madras, there is no land. Maybe the nearest one is about 4 kilometers away from Velachery or something like that. I said that would not do. I really want a place where collaboration takes place naturally, both formally and informally. You need to live together, you need to eat together, you need to have your coffee, because most innovations, most innovative thinking and breakthrough comes when you are having a cup of coffee and things like that. And I want that large interactive place. And therefore, I want it next to IIT. And since space was not there, I kept on playing with the idea and knocking. One day, suddenly, I got to meet the Chief Secretary of Tamil Nadu. I don't remember his name. Maybe his name was Vishwanathan. I don't remember. Maybe wrong. And meet him, and actually a few things I started talking to him, he liked it, and we met a few times, and I told him about this whole dream of IIT Madras Research Park and why something like this will make a breakthrough. He was older to me, but he kind of felt, yes, this was a good thing to do. So someday, he said, someday I will take you to the Chief Minister. And suddenly one day I got a call, and Jayalalitha was the Chief Minister. And he says, come, you will have our audience for 5 to 7 minutes. I went there. First time I was meeting Jayalalitha. I didn't go out, but I told her this is my dream. And this is what is required. And I talked about how to some extent it is done in the West, in India it is not done. Let us be the first people to do it. What was good about it, it didn't take me more than 3 to 4 minutes. And she grasped the idea. That way I have actually found that most politicians are very sharp, unlike the general belief. She grasped the idea and said, yes, I think we should do it. So what is the problem? The Chief Secretary was also there. Said, well, he's looking for land next to IIT. And there is none. She looked at me. So next to what is there next to IIT? It says on this side, this Velachari is developing, Taran is developing. This is the only place, the area, but there is film city, and it was Jayalalitha Film City. I was quite surprised. It was named after her. I said, but nothing is going on in Jayalalitha Film City. The Chief Secretary didn't say anything. Because you don't tell her that in Jayalalitha Film City, nothing is going on. So I know nothing is going on. Check if there is a land. And give it to them. That's it. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, I was out. And they very quickly located this land. It was available. I'd asked for some 10 to 12 acres, and I didn't ask for larger land, and this was available. And in a very short time, the initial paperwork, etc., was being done, and the work started.
Which year was this?
I think it was 2005. Again, I may be wrong or something like that. But unfortunately, 2006 probably, or late 2005 or early 2006, while it was identified, the place was marked, and we were told that this is the place, we started even preparing what to do. The paperwork was not done, it was not handed over. And there was an election and Jayalalitha lost. Karunanidhi became the Chief Minister. Of course, the Chief Secretary left, but I had met him and I told him, sir, can we pursue this and get it? He said, no, not possible. Since it was decided by her and just a few months before, there's no way you can get it. I was very disappointed. But he had connection with the new secretaries and all that, and I met them and all that. One person, I don't remember again who, kind of sort of said that the only way you can do it is that if we kill that whole file and make a fresh request for exactly like this. And now we can even openly say that Jayalalitha Film City, nothing is going on, and IIT Madras wants this, and maybe we will be able to pull it through. And I don't know what, this is one thing that the bureaucrats pulled it through. They actually created a fresh file, went and presented it to Karunanidhi, I was not even required, and got the land sanctioned and gave it to us. So very interesting thing that I mean, we had nothing to do with politics, but this is what happened. And the land was sanctioned. There was still some issue about whether this land, who did it belong to and all that went on. But basically, sanction was done. This is the time then you needed money. And by now, I was going around making presentation about this in different places from 2004. I had increased the pace. And I remember I had gone and made presentation to MHRD, our parent ministry, and they seemed to be sort of thinking that it's a good idea. The secretary felt it was a good idea. There was a meeting in which World Bank people were there. Maybe IFC, I don't remember again. And they asked me to make a presentation, and they looked at it. They said they were willing to fund it.
This was in Delhi.
Okay. And so I kind of worked it out that 100 crore, and we talked about one building. We're not talking about if we can get it, we can do this, and we may require 100 crore loan, and all that discussion was going on. Till that time, we had not got the land. I remember once I got the land, I went back and met the secretary, MHRD, and the minister was. I also don't remember who the minister was. Could have been Kapil Sibal, but not sure. But the minister turned around and so was saying, why take it from World Bank and IFC? That much money we will give you. So, once again, the whole process started. How do they give us the money? And that took time. Almost a year and a half of going back and forth, back and forth. They said they will give us a
What kind
loan.
of entity is it? Is it a trust or what
So
is it?
that was decided that it would be a Section 8 non-profit company. That time Section 25 company. We had to take permission from the government of India. We applied for it. That permission MHRD was able to get us very quickly. But the question is, what was the money? And they said that they will give loan, concessional loan. And I said, fine. I'm all right. If you take 4 or 5% interest, we will be able to finally manage that. Of course, IIT was not in favor of it. They felt that it was too much of a risk. But in the meantime, we had created the company, we had hired a few people, started looking at first tower, and this tower was conceived of and all that. And it required about 100 crore rupees. So we got a little bit of money, a few crore rupees from alumni that got us going. The office was electrical sciences block. It was all running in my office, part of a tenant office, and this whole thing was going on. Problem took place is that finally we got the loan thing moving and there's a lot of process in Delhi, and I didn't realize that. This finance committee, that committee, you go to Ministry of Finance, make a presentation. But finally it was sanctioned. And we had worked it out that we'll get loan at something that was at 4 or 5% interest. And we had got the thing, paper signed, everything was done. And we got the money. So everything should be fine. And in the meantime, we found out architect and all this. And we started doing this. Everybody was keeping their fingers crossed, what will happen, but first time something like this.
What was it supposed to be? Just a building or laboratories? Or what?
So by now we had conceived very clearly. This is the place where two things will happen. One, this will be a large complex. This is the building. And it will have all the modern amenities and things like that. We will get industry to come and set up their R&D out here. Learning from IIT Delhi's experience, we will sort of say, but we will oblige them. We will insist that they do collaboration with IIT. Now, how do you do that? So I kept on talking to industry, said we'll give it in writing and all those things, felt that would not go anywhere. We came up with the thing that it has to be written in the agreement. In the agreement, rental agreement, we'll incorporate that you'll have to work. But how do you do this? So we sort of said that they have to earn certain points from IIT for every work that they do with IIT. For every kind of interaction, they will have to earn some points. And we debated what that point should be called, and we sort of said IIT understands credits. You get credits for a course, so they understand it. Let's call it credits. So we said we have to earn 100 or 150 credits for every 1,000 square feet. We'll put that. If you fail to do that, you'll have to move out. Maybe in the beginning face a penalty, and after that you move out. Even though you have set up your infrastructure, you will still have to move out. So that was the first interesting thing that we got it done, the concept of credit scheme. And what will earn you credit? We had a faculty council, actually one person from every department, along with me as a chairman, sit down and decide, saying that, okay, if you do an R&D project, sponsored project of so much amount, you will get so many credit. If you do a consultancy project, you will get so much money. But if you took some student and guided them, you will earn so much money. If you took a PhD student, guided them. If you sponsored a PhD student, you will earn so much money. If you go and teach at IIT, part of a course, you will earn some credits. So every single kind of interaction, we wanted IIT and academia and industry to interact. We put down and we kept on sort of saying credits, this credits you will get, and you have to earn so many credits. And we get that put into the agreement so that you cannot violate. It is this time that this idea, a number of people were helping me. Different industrialists, I know Arun Jain, who was running Polaris, and I also happened to later on get on the board of Polaris. He helped me, some of his people helped me. I knew some people in Tata Group helped me. So once I remember discussing this, one very senior person, finance man, a person who knew finance, Kishore Chakar. And I said, this is what I have my idea. How do I make this possible and make sure that there are no gaps? Gave him the IIT Delhi example also. So he said, I'll help you. You write the clause in a specific language. This is what will happen. Say, I'm going to put it in terms there such that any auditor who looks at the contract will perceive it as a risk. And all that you have to do is make the company auditor think that it is a risk. As soon as it's a risk, generally most of these companies have this risk mitigation committee of the board. And the CEOs and others have to get the contract approved by the risk mitigation committee by proposing how will ensure that this risk is going to be mitigated. And he says, you also spread something. And this is something that partly came from him, partly came from me, that you make the variable salary of the people from that company sitting here dependent on meeting the credit point. If they fail to meet the grade point, their variable salary goes to zero. Now, in industry, variable salary is very, very important. Fixed salary is very low, not as good. Variable salary is very large, and this is extremely important. And most leaders try to ensure that they get full variable salary. Now, since it is put there and it is made as a risk mitigation strategy, just input a few language that industry will be very hungry to work with IIT. That single thing helped us. Because when we actually worked out agreement, we suddenly found the industry was very interested in that. Initially, otherwise they will come, they will set it up, their R&D, fine, they will have a little bit of interaction, not significant. Now they need to earn credit, which means they have to do these things. So at half the side you have got it ready. And particularly if there are young people there, they will run. They will go and meet every faculty. Now you have to get the faculty ready. Faculty also has as much of resistance to this. That was more difficult. Partly, of course, we are pushing them. We are trying to tell them that you can earn money through this. That was helping. IIT, that way, IIT Madras by that time was doing enough industrial consultancy, and there were people who were earning decent money, and that was somewhat looked at. We also pushed director that time that put this as one of the measure in performance evaluation, in promotion of associate. When you get promoted to associate and professor and full professor, you will be measured, number one, of course, on your academic output in terms of papers and this, that. Your teaching will be evaluated. Your research and development work that you do as
within
some Department of Science and Technology and various things, and what projects you bring will make the consultancy that you do with industry, the work that you do with industry will be one of the pillars. And the fifth, of course, will be if you are participating in any management functions at IIT. Strengthening this, and this happened gradually, essentially gave it that if you do work, this is important work. Suddenly faculty start saying, well, this is a valid work. And we still felt that in academia, all these things will not work. We'll have to make a few people succeed. Others will follow. And we worked very closely with a few faculty to get this marriage happen. So this is what the industry academia interface that we started bringing in.
And at that time, only one tower is getting built when all this is happening.
Yes. Okay. And industry, and we knew that we cannot sell this idea. We had to go and sell something to the industry. And by now we had learned that you have to only sell at the top. You can't sell at their R&D and get anything done. No. You have to sell at the top. And what do you sell at the top? That today all your technology is coming from West, US. And that is expensive, making you make expensive product. You are trying to do cost reduction, but you are able to do only a limited extent. Fresh approaches are not there. This industry-academia interaction will give you ability to come up with products which are better and more affordable without paying this large technology fee. And suddenly, you will prosper yourself. Our telecom example was given, other things was given, and certainly there will be a buy-in from the top people in the industry. There are some multinationals which was easy to sell. Some others were more difficult. And even after that, does it necessarily translate to the working level? And that's where that variable salary clause would help. And yet it will be a lot of work. All this will not make any difference. And within Research Park, we sort of said one objective is to manage this infrastructure and manage your finance. The second very important objective is industry-academia interaction. And we created a faculty council to essentially watch this and help promote this. One person from each department. We created an industry council. All the industrialists were sitting here to discuss this and figure out what bottleneck was happening. And it's basically a lot of hard work. Beyond that, once it gets going, there are few early successes. All these credit points, etc., do not matter. While in the beginning they will credit, no, don't make it 150 credits, make it 125 or 100 credits. Soon they will earn 250, 300 credits. They will be doing more. You have to get to a stage where industry starts feeling what they are benefiting tremendously. And similarly, the academia start feeling that they are benefiting tremendously. So the first tower was actually done.
Did you get any top name?
First tower we got several, but not probably the anchor client that we are looking at. But we actually were able to fill it up very quickly, which essentially made our economics good. There was one little problem in economics. And I'll quickly run through that before I come to the second tower, which is about very important and getting some anchor client. While the contract, etc., was all signed, we had got the loan, and after 4-5 years of moratorium or 3 years of moratorium, we would pay so much interest. All this was fine, and our finance was also moving in the right direction, though nobody in IIT believed that we will be able to make it work, but I was confident that we will make it work.
And how much was the average occupancy? 50%,
So
75%?
we were able to go up to 80-90% quite quickly in a couple of years' time. Took a long time to build. So we got slowed down. That caused problem. But once we got going, things happened.
That is around 2010-11, the building was up.
2010, we got the building ready. There were issues about the path from IIT to this. All these were small things. We kept on getting obstacles. We kept on overcoming them and all that. But the biggest bottleneck came is that CAG looked at this paper of giving loan and still told MHRD that how did you give this loan at an interest rate of 5% or 6%, I don't remember the number, or 4%. You cannot do it to less than 12%. They had a rule that their government had made that you can't do it at less than 12% for public sector industry. And they looked at this as a public sector, though it was not public sector. And they said, they created ordered objection, there was a little problem. You went to cry in parliament and say this has to be changed. MHRD said we'll get it changed. So MHRD called the director up and said, get it changed. Director called me and said, that you have to change it. I said, no way I'm going to change. We have signed this is signed already. I'm not going to change it because if we change it, we are not viable. At 12% interest, we are dead. That time, Bhaskar Ramurthy was director, MHRD. Bhaskar told me, I don't know what happened.
And we know that I was CAG.
Bhaskar told me it was nothing to do with the CAG, it was to do with MHRD, that if you don't sign, IIT will not get money. It's not money. And there is no choice. He was the chairman of this thing. And I said, well, you are chairman, let's call a board meeting. And I know the board, within the board, I'll get support. We'll create a very good board, but this is a show that will not do. You'll have to go. If you don't sign, you have to someone sign it. So I go to Delhi and plead, saying, what are you doing? You're going to kill us. I meet the secretary, then he takes me to the minister. And they understand that we killed. I said, this is coming up so well. Nice things are happening. Why do you want to do this? And they said, what's the alternatives? Since audit has raised it, we can't go back. So they said that, well, the only way we can do this is that if we will, you change this paper and agree to give. In the meantime, we will give a grant of 100 crore. 100 crore plus the interest account. So that you can pay back, and after that you are in better shape. I said that, do I have assurance? He said, yes. So we went and signed it. Big risk. And it took almost 14-15 months after that to get the grant. And basically they decided to create research park everywhere and give other IITs also. That's how they were able to manage to do this. And they gave us the money. We returned that money and it became grant, which made us even better in financial setting. And we immediately sort of say, now we are earning. So we were doing well financially and we were earning. The place was full. We said, now we are ready to do the second. So we said that, well, we can expand this. Now, this will only become viable as we start expanding with this and that. And while we did this building nicely and did that, but I was not too happy with this.
Hiranandani? No.
No, this was done by
Office contractor?
No, this was done by a person I knew. From Ahmedabad, Kirti Shah, very well known, good guy. He did a decent job, but one big building. In fact, it didn't have an outer space like this. So it's around this time when first building this was that got done, and I decided no, I want to make it something marvelous. And without that, the whole thing will not come out. So I found a way to walk into the office of the Guru. The mention the name just now.
Hafiz contractor.
Hafiz contractor. I told him the basic concept, and so in short meeting, I say I don't have much money, I can't pay you your active fees, but I have this big dream. So, in a short meeting, somebody got me to this. Okay, we can meet. And I was staying in Taj Lansent. So I said, sir, if you can come. I was going 2-3 days, I was there. The Tata Communications board meeting was going on. So if you can come, one more. And I said, sure, he will come. And let's spend 2-3 hours brainstorm. And I told him that this is the dream, this is very important for India. I don't have too much money, but I want something wonderful. And somehow, I don't know what happened. He says, I'll do it. Do not worry about money. I said, I have total money that I have is only so much. And his feeling was that what I wanted couldn't be done at that price. He told me it will be, I said, total money that I'm willing to spend, 100 crore I've already spent, but 300 crores. And I want 1.2 million square feet, it's something interesting and all that. I said, unlikely to get done less than 400 crores. I said, 400 crores, I find it difficult to manage. So he said he will do his best. I said, you do your best. You try to bring it down to 350, 375. Let's try to. So how will you do it? So I think I've learned enough what needs to be done. So that's the time this beautiful concept came up. That looks fine. I told that it should be one of the most attractive places in the world. And this tower is there, we'll have to figure out what to do. We're not going to. And make much bigger. I told him multiple things about it, looking absolutely top class. Should be a top class space in every way. We'll try all kinds of new concepts, as much as possible green building. We'll try to do everything. I will help you in technology. I told him two things that finally tilted the balance in our favor. I said I have some of the best faculty members in civil engineering department. And he knew most of them, or several of them. I said they will work for us free and help in this. So that kind of, and I said, see, I am an electrical engineer. I will take care of your whole building management and solar and cooling. I didn't know much about that, but I said, learn and pick up and all of that we do. So he agreed to do this and came up with the concept. And it took, after that, almost a number of years, 4-5 years to get the whole thing done. I went to Shapurji Paramji, who at that time they had a very great relationship with Tata Group. So I went and met him. I said, you do the construction. Can't be left to a small guy because I want top quality. Again, like this thing. You know, one thing, what made, or how did we manage the good cost? We borrowed money from the bank. We decided to borrow large sums of money, almost 300 crore rupees. Now, it's very difficult. How do you borrow such kind of money? Fortunately, I was in the board of State Bank of India, so I talked to enough people, and they helped me figure out this building and the land has to be kind of mortgaged in the beginning. Though it strictly did not belong to us, the government had given us government land, we got lease. But we figured out a way, and we'll say we'll pick up money in bits and pieces and we'll work it out. And as the construction goes up, we'll mortgage that part also. And somehow they kind of worked it out. And I had the best architect, I had the best builder. All these things was good. But still overall finance was a concern. But you know one thing that I learned, that I learned while the first tower was getting constructed, in my interaction with various vendors doing various things, I actually figured out that 15 to 20% of vendors' cost in India for any construction, large construction like this, is finance cost. Cost of finance. They have to invest in doing things. And they get paid from 6 months to 12 months later in bits and pieces. And there are still, you keep deposits, this, that. And that jacks up. And I saw that. I looked at all the buildings that are going on in IIT, and I saw that that was there. And I talked to enough people because now I was on the boards of a large number of companies. And I said, this is a major issue. And they don't get easily financed. They borrow at 16%, 18%, 20%, sometimes from banks, sometimes from even other sources. I said, well, this is the place. I have finance. I'll pay them in advance. I'll make it very easy. I'll ensure that they don't have to pay 1 rupee bribe to anybody. Even in private building, there are bribes. I'll just run this place extremely efficiently. And fortunately, I had this one young gentleman called Rajendra Mutha, who was willing to work. He had worked with us for long. He had become CEO and is willing to actually get this going. And he was 100% honest. He would do things as per my direction. And we ensured that the finance cost will be wiped out. So we'll work out, we'll negotiate, we'll come to a particular price and say this price. And then I'll say, okay, I'm now going to give you 50% advance and 30% then, 10% then. You bring down the cost. And invariably we were able to cut down by 10-12%. So actually manage this also very well. As far as I'm concerned, it was very clear. This is like a startup. Startup works with some seed money, rest it borrows, this, that, and finally it has to stand on its own leg. I say if it doesn't stand on its own leg, if it requires either IIT support or government support, it will be messed up. We ensure that not a single IIT employee is involved in this whole operation. I was the only person from IIT who was paid by IIT and spending time here. Not a single, not one person. But ran it extremely efficient. It's a small office, long hours, like we used to do others, with a motivation that we are trying to build something of world class, and we actually did this. And we pushed the faculty and others who had a work industry academia relationship.
But what gave you the confidence after this one tower that you can confidently want to build 1 million square feet? That's like huge.
Well, that's where, some extent, that's what entrepreneurship is all about. You have to take the right.
How many square feet was this?
This is 400,000.
Oh my God. So you're bumping it up 4-5 times.
3 times.
Right.
We already researched that. We had by and large conceived of it. But we added a lot of features. We have, for example, chilled water storage. So that when I have excess electricity, I will chill the water and use it. So all kinds of things we have tried. So creation of a high quality space and working continuously. This is where alumni also started helping in bringing the industry. They felt proud. And I even sort of said that we were going to build a bridge. And initially, of course, I asked IIT to build the bridge, and IIT said, no, where will the money come from, and will we get the sanction and all that. So I gave an offer. So they, of course, I asked them, so they created a plan, and their cost was coming very high, which generally IIT buildings cost is. I said that, well, I will do it at about 60-70% cost. Let me do it. I'll pay for half. You pay for half. You just give me money for that on reimbursement basis. You don't manage it. If you manage it, it won't happen. I'll manage it. And got the IIT board to approve it, and they did this, and we built this bridge.
Again, Shampurji Palonji, who built the bridge?
Yeah, same. The bridge construction, I don't remember exactly who, but it became part of it. We actually went out and right from the beginning, we sort of said the bridge has only one side sloping down. Other side will go straight into the building. Parking lot. Why should it go down again? Half the bridge cost I had removed. There was issue whether government will give permission, but we managed all that. So, it's again, point is that if you look at the difficulties and it is not possible will be the answer. But if you start working on it, you will see the difference. In the meantime, our tight finance, our managing, we didn't allow high cost people. I mean, every thing that alumni does or IIT does, even if it hires these people, they are very expensive people and they are like corporate people. Here, I got young people who will make a difference. And with the whole spirit of you're trying to do something. So decent pay, but nothing like this fancy pay. Don't have these fancy people. Much of alumni and faculty were not happy about it. In fact, many of them were trying to recommend somebody, and I didn't accept it. But finally it paid. We were very soon starting to pay back the loan. We are doing this, we're increasing it. We even went about doing this whole bridge that we are trying to create. We have one bridge here, one bridge on 6th floor. We have 2 of them. It was costing quite high. And people will sort of say, no, these are unnecessary. Why are you doing this? I said, no. The looks, feel, beauty is so critical. I want people in world class where anybody comes in, they say, wow, what a place it is. And no compromise on quality, no compromise on maintenance, but no extra expenses, no luxury. And getting the companies. By the time first tower came, we were generating 10-12 crore rupees surplus every year.
And your income is only rental or royalties
Only
also?
Rental. Only rent.
Okay, no royalties of the product of the R&D.
In fact, all royalties go to IIT. Right from beginning. Any joint work, R&D project is handled by ICNSR. We give them everything. They don't recognize. We didn't even try to keep anything. In the beginning, people suggested maybe we should get percentage. Nothing. This is an infrastructure project and we'll make this possible. At the same time, we decided to build an incubator. Now, what is this incubator that you would ask us? Remember that I had told you that industry-academia interaction can create products which can make a great difference. If you understand India market, it can make a huge difference. But we recognize that while industry was willing to do that, particularly instead of importing technology, they would use Indian technology. They were not yet ready to fund risky project. Well, wireless and local was an exception. But I had to sell and I had to have race data standing with me to sell that. They would generally be willing to do less risky project. Who will do the more risky project? This is where I sort of say the more risky project, more difficult one, has to be by startup companies. That is the concept we came up, saying there are two kinds of more. One standard product which will come from the industry. Industry is willing to. Of course, we like to push industry to take up more and more risky project, but till that happens, we'll have a startup. What is a startup? Startup is young people who will set up a company, work with us, with IIT, develop the product, and take it to the market. And if it is a very disruptive product, great, it will be able to take it up. In the beginning, we didn't conceive of that can get funding. We always had we'd fund from the projects or money that we collect from elsewhere. But gradually, it also started that they will be funded. There are enough people who are willing to invest and venture invest or what's called angel investment, or ready to take risk, and if that wins, that can make a huge difference. Now, to create these startups, who will do startups with us? Of course, our students or students who graduated from here, our alumni, after maybe a few years of work, maybe once in a while faculty members. And gradually, as we start getting going, maybe people will come from elsewhere, students from elsewhere also will come and start doing things with us. So way back, I think 2005 or so, we started this first incubator called Rural Technology and Business Incubator. The incubator will help you get started. What help will it do? Well, it will first figure out what you are doing right. It will do mentoring. It will say, okay, you seem to be right on this path. You can do this. It may give you some seed money. It will certainly give you some early space, a small shared space. It will give you the connect to IIT. It may also give you help in all your, you need a finance person, you need a company secretary. So we can get some people common for all the companies who can help all these companies. So this was a concept which I remember the whole thing about Saraswati Lakshmi was getting resolved by 2003 or 4 in Department of Science and Technology. Also, it was, I remember making several presentations and people were interested. By 2004, in Delhi, the new government came. They said, well, we can start. They even defined, they started trying to say they will fund something. And that started creating incubators. They will provide the initial support money, small money. After that, incubator is supposed to stand on its own leg. I was very clear that small money is what we need, get going, and after that, we'll stand on its leg. First 2-3 years, little expenses, they will take care of it. After that, they'll have to stand on its leg. And we sort of say the incubator also, we had started this incubator RTBI in the department itself, I think 2005 or 6. But we'll bring it here because it will flourish more, because here, the whole industry, academia, faculty collaboration is going on. It is here there is a lot of young innovation. They will also be able to work with established companies. And this concept, we say, will grow.
Who markets the incubated products?
So it's a company. So there is a new company that comes up. You come and set up a company. It's your job. We are here only to help you. We can help you with your product. We can help you with your what you require as a finance. Company secretary will help you with your shared space to begin with. We can help you with some faculty working with you to make products.
And it necessarily has to have a new engineering component R&D at IIT Madras. That it has to have, right?
Well, that is a preferable thing. But I mean, it's not strictly defined as IIT Madras because you are a student of IIT Madras. You may have worked on something and then came and started working. You may leverage some faculty, may not leverage faculty.
Oh, okay.
Of course, there will be mentors. Mentors amongst faculty who will help you. There will be mentors from alumni, mentors from industry who will come and help you. We are very lucky that very early we got M.A. Murugappan to say, half a day in 15 days I will spend here. Half a day means 3 hours he used to spend. You meet 5-6 companies. It will make a huge difference because suddenly you are able to get it and what will work, what will not work. And started working. And there are a lot of alumni mentors, a lot of things, a lot of training program we will provide. Seed funds will provide. Soon we started providing what is called the angel fund. Angel fund is a little bit different from seed fund. Seed fund normally we even give as a grant. It's a small money, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs. That can get you going, but that doesn't last you very long. But there are people who may provide together up to 1 crore rupees. These are people, professionals who have earned enough money, who are probably 5, 6, 7 crore. They will mark 50 lakhs of their money. They may invest in as 5 lakhs at a very early stage. So they get a decent percentage of the stake in the company. And if the company becomes, they will invest at a certain value. The company becomes 10 times. You get 10 times the money for what you invested. So you need only one in 4 or 5 companies to succeed.
But would you even expect a patentable product?
Many products are patentable, many are not. Some of the work that is gone in IIT is patented and taken over by the company. Some are not. So it is a whole variety. You don't look at one thing. It's like a bunch of youngsters who have been thrown together and they are inspired, they are pushed, and they work 20 hours a day to come up with something and make it work. And it started with a few companies and it went on, and today we have 220 companies.
220 incubations.
Incubated companies. But not all of them are here. Some of them have graduated, some of them have gone away, but they're all born here. Born at IIT in the beginning, when RTPI was there, and here. And the valuation of these companies are now 7,000 crore rupees. There are companies which are 1,000 crore rupees worth. Others are not that high value. Many of them are early stage, but even 100 crore rupees, even 50 crore rupees is a large valuation. Even 20 crore rupees is a large valuation. You put 30, 40 lakhs rupees and your value is that high. It's all potential value. It's a value of exponential growth. You basically create this in exponential growth. This is where very breakthrough technological takes place. And you find a way to market it and somehow succeed in the market. Finally, you have to succeed.
Can you give us, say, 3 examples which really bring this alive?
Okay. Several examples I can give you, but let me start with a company. This is not from IIT Madras. There are a couple of youngsters who were studying at Noida, used to live in Delhi, in a college called JP Institute of Technology. Fortunately, they had couple of ex-IIT Kharagpur faculty after retirement were working there. And they were very close to me, those two faculty. We had worked on this telematics group together and telecom, they were part of telecom group. Very, very high quality faculty. They had retired from IIT Kharagpur and they were still relatively young, so they had joined JP Institute. How they joined, I don't know. And there were these two youngsters who kept on sort of saying, we want to do a startup, start a company, and these faculty members got to know them. And they seem to have told them that if you really want to do a successful startup, go and meet Jhunjhunwala. He is the one who knows how to make things possible. So they wrote to me. I said, well, if Professor Maskara has given you my reference or Professor Faruqi has talked about it, I'll certainly meet you. But how do I meet you and spend time with you? No, if I come to Delhi, I come to Delhi reasonably often. But I'm normally very busy. And you know, if you are at a fairly early stage, you need a lot of time. Even if you come once here, I may spend 1 hour, 1.5 hours, that will not be enough. You need a length of time. Then they said, we are willing to find time. I said, but very difficult for me. But one thing I have that I normally come for a morning, evening to Delhi. I will come in the morning flight, stay there whole day, and then come back in the evening. And in between, I have typically 3 or 4 meetings. I travel from one meeting to another. I normally have a car which will pick me from the airport and then will take me from one meeting to another. My travel time is typically 45 minutes to an hour between meetings. So I have 2-3 periods of 45 minutes. I don't know exactly when. If you are willing to spend time with me, come, hop into the car, stay from morning to evening, and I'll spend time whenever I get time. That's how I started. They came with a certain business idea. I immediately saw a hole in that. And I then kept on talking to them. I saw that they were serious. I also knew that they did not know anything about what an incubated company. They were learning, they were picking up things. They were still, I think they started meeting when they were still towards the end of second year. So they actually did 3 or 4 times in third and fourth year. End of fourth year, they were about to graduate and they said, now we want to start the company. So I happened to
What is the product?
So I happened to be in Delhi and they said, sir, we'd like to come and meet you. So I was there in one evening in a guest house. I said, come. And they came. I sat down with them. They had a concept of how to ensure that if your phone is stolen, it is recovered. So they had an idea. They had worked out a number of things. I listened to that. I fortunately knew enough about the telephone and telecom. And I said, I understood what they were saying. And within a few minutes, I found loophole and said, this will never work. This will not work and this will not make you money. This will not flourish. They're very disappointed. The good part is that they understood. They realized that they were wrong. But I told them, but I'm still committed to help you. And they talked about 1 or 2 other things, but they had still no clear idea. I said, you don't have a clear idea. I'll give you an offer. You come to home and join me as a project staff. I'll even give you a small salary, living salary for you. Start working with me. In a year's time, I'll help you find the right area. And you will start a company. So I said, fine. They came. This is a company which is later on called Uniform. We got them started saying that India, it was a very different kind. Initial idea was very different. I said, well, India, large percentage of India is not very literate. So even when the phone etc. comes in, and though data communication is going to become more and more possible on phone, but they will work largely on voice. They are comfortable working on voice. They are not comfortable in working with data. Maybe a small message, but you can't get them to work on big internet and Facebook and this and that. Voice, they can hear voice, they can they can talk in voice. So we sort of said, well, there are two things that is required. Number one, you have to convert voice to text and intelligently so that it gets to what they are trying to convey. Send it to a server. Server process whatever is required, gives them answer in text, and you have to convert text to voice. And there are some engines available, maybe one can use. You will make work on the server, try to figure out what has to be done, how to kind of do this. This is the area which we can use for a whole lot of different things. We sort of said we can take it to the farmers, we can work in the health domain, we can work in different domains. And we came and started working on it. Very beginning, even I had not worked in this area, struggled, but worked 16 hours a day. Two people, Umesh Sachdeva and Ravi Saraut. They'll work very hard. And they'll get a lot of beating from me if they don't work hard. And they will do more and more. We came up with a whole lot of idea. We wanted to provide some service to agricultural farmers. We started thinking of using this. There are some health workers. In the meantime, this SARS happened. And the government of India wanted the data to be collected on SARS, on phone. And we used the same thing where voice will be converted to text. Then we asked, and very early prototypes, some work started in various things. We even made a very interesting thing before. We tried to sort of say, your door opening. We came up with a product called Khulja Simsim. So you come to your door and you say Khulja Simsim and the door will open. If you are Kannada.
Yeah, voice
if you are not Kannada, so voice authentication, not just recognition. That turned out to be very difficult because what will happen is, so we sort of say in offices, doors will open and there are 70 people. Now, which of the 70 people should it try to match became difficult. And if you try to match with all of them, the small processor that it had with small memory at that time was not powerful. So we sort of say that Kannan will say Khulja Simsim 5341. Now 5341 number is which will be easy to detect. Digits were easy to detect. 5341 they will detect. They will detect 5341. They won't be able to figure out it was Kannan. But 5341 internally is mapped to Kannan. Now Khulja Simsim that Kannan says is matched to that, and if there is a good match, it will open the door. So instead of fingerprint detection, much before fingerprint detection came, we came with the product. And in this lab, in Telecom Center of Excellence, we first put this product. It worked to some extent, did not work very well, and we kept on learning and kept on learning. We kept on learning, getting more things done, struggling, getting a few projects, getting money, learning. And then suddenly, they got a breakthrough because they had worked enough and they picked up enough technology. They got a breakthrough that in a call center, the calls were coming and the call center came up with the idea or they came up with the idea that we will convert it into text, figure out whether what the request is coming, and whether the right answer is being provided, figure out and even maybe partially automate it, maybe help the operator with all the answers straight away while the text is being recognized and answers being provided so that they can do this. That started clicking and they started getting money. And they became better and better, started capturing first. And their key strength was, right from beginning, that they were doing in Indian languages. While something like this in English was being done in the West, but in Hindi, in Tamil, in Bengali, in Oriya, in Telugu, they were starting to pick up and do it in this. And they got interest, they started making some money. And there was angel fund which invested in them. And they started doing even better. John Chambers, the Cisco person who ran Cisco, I don't know if he's founder or chairman of Cisco for almost, he's 20 years, the one who really made Cisco famous. He came once and they met him. And he was thrilled. I said, I'll invest in your company, I'll maintain your company. And so far, in their website, they used to write my name, Jhunjhunwala, as a guru of the company. Because I am the one who nurtured them, brought them up. And he says, from now on, he will be the guru and Jhunjhunwala can retire. And in fact, there was a formal ceremony where something with a plaque called Guru, I handed it over to him. I was also very happy that day. And he says, well, I'll take you worldwide. And today the company operates worldwide. And
where is it?
The objective is to become very good in 100 languages around the world. Market, of course, in India, in Middle East, in Singapore, Indonesia, in Europe, United States, everywhere. So this is very interesting. Now the company is 1,000 crore rupees company.
Headquartered in?
Headquartered in. So its complete R&D is done here in this building. They continue to do operations from here. They've also got an office in Bangalore, between Chennai and Bangalore. Their marketing offices sits all over. So the CEO himself, Umesh, is now sitting in San Francisco. And Ravi is now sitting in Singapore. These are two primarily marketing things. And I think the headquarters was Chennai only till recently, but now they're going to probably flip it over and make it there so that it becomes easier for them to manage. R&D will continue to be here, operations will largely be from here, but all over they will be supporting customers and marketing. It's a company which has a dream of, today is 1,000 crore value, probably more because 1,000 crore was about a year and a half back, to become a $1 billion company, but it doesn't stop here. It wants to become a $10 billion company. And one of the strengths about Umesh and Ravi is they are looking at it. How do we get to 100 languages? How do we become number one player in the world in this area? And they have come back here and asked me and Dr. Hemamurthy and Dr. Umesh and Dr. Gaura Rana in IIT to become their key R&D person, driving this and make it into a top company. And their objective is to make a $10 billion company with R&D here.
Were IIT Madras faculty involved in the R&D?
I told you, Gaura Rana,
from the very beginning.
Umesh, not in the beginning. I was the only person involved in the beginning.
But does IIT Madras get royalty out of this worldwide expansion?
IIT Madras has shares in the company. So, in fact, we have even exited, we have sold the shares. we recently. So we invested 10 years back 10,000 rupees. That's all. We didn't invest any 10,000 rupees. We during COVID time, we were in some financial difficulty. So we are looking at what to do. And in one conversation, Umesh mentioned that he can get us exit. Normally, exit is not given, but he says we are a small share and he can get us exit. And we decided, no, it's good. We decided it's a very good time to give the exit. Because we needed money and the company was doing very well. We sold the 10,000 rupees shares at 11.5 crore rupees. We got 11.5 crore rupees cash.
Wow.
But the company continues to work here and we will continue to support them. We will get future also some things, but we are now exited the company.
So would it be right for me to say this whole graph that you gave of Unicore, Unifor is the kind of thing that you would expect every unit here, the dream would be for them to burst open like this.
Yes, and this is not the only company. I can go on giving examples. And all kinds of examples. I'll give you some because they are very interesting.
Yeah, of course.
Example. There is a second example that I'll give you, and I'll give you not 3, 5, 6 examples, 4, 5, not necessarily today, but I used to give a lot of lectures, and my lectures were kind of popular. I was trying to drive this whole dream that we can do it in India. And once I was invited to give a lecture in the big crowd in Vigyan Bhavan, almost 3,000 people sitting. And I was talking about what we can do in rural areas and what technology can do and how technology and incubation can be done, and etc. etc. I think 2006. So I gave the talk and I had to run away because I had a flight to catch. I had to run away. Came back after giving my talk. And 2 days later on, I get an email from one person, one young woman, saying that last year I graduated from such and such college. I am a Saloni Malhotra. They bought in Delhi, graduated from this in engineering, and I am now doing something. But I want to come and work with you and maybe set up a company and basically make a difference to rural areas. Now, you do get mails like this after your lecture, and you generally tend to sort of say, okay, they are very excited, but they won't follow up. Of course, you respond. So generally, I try to test them, and I say, she's a Punjabi girl sitting in Delhi. So I wrote to her that, okay, if you're serious, come and meet me here. And she landed a week later. Very brought up in Delhi, fancy, had a double nose ring, all kinds, and had all kinds of things, and looked like one of these fancy women, and very uncertain about it. But when I talked to her, she said, I'm very committed, sir. I want to make a difference. But I do not know what to do. You have to try. So I gave the same offer. Okay? Join me. And I told her, this time I told her, right then and there, I have a dream of what can be done in rural India since you want to do something. But I don't have time, energy to actually do it myself and guide you at every step and give you work at every step. So if you're looking at as employee, sorry, I can do this, not do that. But if you are willing to try to become an entrepreneur, I can help you become an entrepreneur and drive that. So you will be your own boss. In the beginning, I'll guide you, I'll do you, I'll give you a salary also, employ you, but in a year or two, you have to be on your own. And you have to then figure out. That's the only way things flourish. Otherwise, it's going to be limited by me. So she brought up saying that is. So I told her a very interesting story. And said, this is my dream. And I don't know exactly what to do, but we certainly can help you do this. I said, way back in 1973, when I was at IIT Kanpur, one day we heard a young Tata Group executive, Shri F.C. Kohli, coming to give a talk. We had gone there. And he talked about that he has a dream to set up computers in India. We had at IIT Kanpur one small computer. He said that he would like to set up computers in India. And with some connectivity, that time the connectivity was very, very weak, to Europe and United States. And he basically said he wants us to come and work with him on computers. He will go and get the work from Europe and United States, but will execute it from there, from here. And it will be very, very rewarding. I remember that, are you just talking or? So no, I started. Last year I started it and I'm doing that. So I'm looking for you. You are about to graduate. Once you graduate, it was I think 74 or late 74. If you work with me, this will be possible. And so we asked them that, will they easily give you a job? I said no. When I went there last year, they first did not believe that capabilities existed in India. Are they good programmer? And that's the reason I'm looking at you people. I know you people will become very good programmer in no time. And we have to become better than them and show them that they are good, then only I will get there. They kept on saying that what kind of infrastructure is there? Don't cows run on the road? No, this is true. But we'll create good corporate environment where these people will work and deliver on time. Deliver to whatever you want on time. As good as you want. Probably better than yours. So I remembered his talk and I forgot it. When I went to US, came back 81, 82, I heard of TCS, FC Kohli, and it started this. And it started paying some early results. In the meantime, heard Infosys had started to do this. And it was basically a child in 1981. For the next 10, 15 years, it flourished. It completely changed India. First of all, while these questions kept on coming in the beginning, that are there not cows walking, and will there be infrastructure, and will there be power, all these problems we overcame, and we were starting to deliver of high quality. And while we started with very routine services, as the computers were improving, communication was improving, our work started getting more and more sophisticated. And in fact, by 2006, when this woman said that we kept on even doing the most sophisticated design in India. It made a huge difference to India. First of all, the people who worked here recognized very soon that they are as good as anybody else in the world. Till that time, we always thought, oh, US, Europe, they are the people. There, we are somewhere here. No longer. Number two, they recognize that we are as good. That gives us a huge boost. It created a lot of wealth. Most of the people who started working got a lot of money. Very soon the salaries were very good. It created a lot of wealth. I also told that it also created a lot of integration, social integration and other things. It totally changed and the confidence came up, and even the Indians in US started feeling very good that yes, our people can do as good. And soon the world kind of felt the Indians are very good at software. I told her, today we are going and putting an internet kiosk in the village. We are going to put computers, we are going to provide connectivity, a power bank. What urban India did for the world, can you do from rural India for urban India? Provide services. And gradually, the best develop that. And she took it upon herself. Took a year and a half to figure out everything, all kinds of things, and formed a company called Desi Crew.
Desi
Crew.
Guru.
Crew, C-R-E-W. Desi
Crew. Yeah.
So it sets up internet kiosk in the village, multiple computers, get the local class 10 or class 12 graduates, train them, get them to do work which is taken from urban India to rural India. The biggest difficulty she faced was in getting the work from urban India. People say, oh, my work will be done in rural India. Will it be of quality?
Cows
are there?
Streets.
Don't cows go there? In fact, the same words. Will it be secure? I remember there was and I was giving them all the contact. There was a simple work that was being given by a bank to do some data entry of forms. And they said, well, I give it to the village, it may not be secure, somebody may. How can you ensure security in the village? We came with a very innovative idea. She came with a very innovative idea. She will actually scan the page and electronically cut into 4 pieces. And give one piece to one village, another piece to another village, third piece to third, fourth piece to fourth village, and they will all complete this, and then she will combine and operate. She even created overlaps and created technology to join them together. And she grew the company. Today, that company is sitting here. And last year, it had setback and difficulty because getting work was very difficult. Last year, it had 1,000 people working from Tamil Nadu, largely from Tamil Nadu and a few other states working for her in the villages. All kinds of obstacles she faced, including official obstacles. People also say those people have to be Provident Fund and ESI, employee insurance for health insurance has to be deducted. Now the health insurance is deducted so that if there is something goes wrong, you can get service. There is no hospital which can provide the service in 50-kilometer radius. But the officials sitting in Chennai don't even understand that, are refusing to understand that. Say, if you don't cut it, I'm going to fine you. Or they will come here and start demanding price. All kinds of obstacles. But that company has shown that this is possible. One can go on. There are multiple companies. Another company said, not just this work, but any kind of work. I like to get all kind of handicraft work done, designed here maybe, developed, manufactured there. And very soon the design will also get done there. Multiple things they found. For example, Saroni found that people once employed in the villages don't leave the company. Whereas the service centers in cities, there is a 70% turnover. There people are there for 10 years, 15 years. They feel very proud. They feel that they are as good as the city people. In fact, the first set of stories that I heard was exactly that. Now my cousin coming during holidays will not be able to tell me that she is more intelligent than me. This is the kind of words that you start hearing. You are doing social transformation at the same time. This is the story of Desi. I can talk more about it next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.